All right.
Nice.
So let's now move a little over to Sagittarius, which is, I think they're right next to one another. Sagittarius and
Yep.
Scorpion are right next to one another. So, all right. So, about Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is actually the largest constellation in the southern hemisphere and the 15th largest constellation overall, and it's covering a massive area over 867 degrees. It is massive. So Sagittarius, just like Scorpius, was recorded in the second century by the Greek astronomer Ptolemy, and Sagittarius is actually Latin for archer. And Sagittarius, where it's positioned, is at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And the galaxy is at its densest point while it makes its way through Sagittarius. So very cool. So very interesting stuff. It it's information here with its right ascension and declination. And here in the north, in for us, as far as our visibility, for both the north and the south, southern hemispheres, it's visible between 55 degrees and negative 90 degrees. So negative 90 degrees south. So that's 90 degrees south. And for us here in the north, it can be best viewed in August. So this time of year, around 9 o'clock. And the constellation's brightest stars, and there's quite a few. Sagittarius has quite a few bright stars. Um, they form a star pattern or an asterism called the teapot, which we see here, which I highlighted. And there are three other stars, Delta, Epsilon, and Lambda Sagittari, that they come together to form the archer's bow. So if we didn't know, as a reminder, what an asterism is, it is a grouping or a grouping of stars that actually make a constellation or a shape or a star pattern. And this one is almost like a constellation in a constellation. So you have I'm a little teapot. Now, as far as the mythology or the story of how we got Sagittarius, there has been, I was doing some research, and there's been a bit of a confusion regarding who is actually being represented in the constellation. It's because in Greek mythology, there are two famous archers that are immortalized in the stars. One is Chiron, but he is the centaur, and he's the famous trainer of heroes like Jason and Hercules. But like I said, his constellation is Centaurus. Sagittarius is in recognition of Crotos, who is known as the inventor of archery. Crotos was a satyr, which is a creature with the head and body of a man and the torso and legs of a goat. Sometimes they even have horns. Um, and he was the son of the nature god Pan and Eupheme, and he dwelt on Mount Helicon, and he kept the company of the Muses, who his mother took care of. So Crotos was renowned for being both a great, excellent hunter and devoted to the Muses and what they did, the arts. Their, music, art, all that stuff. So he is credited not only with inventing archery, but being the first to use illumination for hunting animals. And he is also said to have introduced applause, where he would clap his hands as the muses were singing, and this was shown as a sign of acclaim, preferable to anything spoken. And to commemorate his diligence to the muses, they asked Zeus to place him among the stars, which he did, forming the constellation Sagittarius. So now we'll talk about some deep sky objects, and some of these are the what I would maybe consider some well-known objects, and some pretty surprising stuff here. There is a lot of stuff in Sagittarius. Too much stuff for me to point out or share or anything like that. There are 15 of Messier's 101 objects, 110 objects alone in this guy. And what I have done is I've shared some images here. I've taken one of these images. The top one is M8 and M20, the Lagoon Nebula and the Trifid Nebula, which I took with my Rasa. M17, courtesy of Chuck Ayub. M24, which is known as the small Sagittarius cloud, which in here in this pit photo here from JJ Lasada, you can still see quite a bit. You can see the lagoon, you can see the Trifid, you can see the M17, the Omega or Horseshoe Nebula. There's so much in this constellation. You can spend a ton of time in this constellation and grab some great objects. Also, there is NGC 6822 that I also found in Astrobin, and that one's known as Bernard's Galaxy. Now, also, I spent a little bit of time trying to find some not so well known or obscure targets, and some of these were actually pretty cool. The first one here, right in the middle, it was actually a new discovery that was discovered by Marcel Drechsler, which is a combination. It's called the Berenstein Nebula and Supernova Remnant. And he spent a lot of time working from a remote observatories in Chile to grab this object, which is, I think, absolutely amazing. You also have, courtesy of Sirius Skies, LBN 86. For you all who have long focal length scopes, you may want to consider Abell 66, which is a planetary nebula, courtesy of Jerry McCone, which I also found on Astrobin. And this was a really cool bright nebula with some also some other nebulosity. NGC 6559, courtesy of GMAD Cat, also in Astrobin. So there are a lot of objects you can go after. You can go after the Messiers and the more common ones, or you can take a few that are off the beaten path if you can find them. You can definitely use Astrobin and look up by constellation different objects and see if they're something that you want to really go after here during the summer, and put that on your target list. So, all right, so that's what I have here for Sagittarius. So